Hey everyone, welcome to CNC Board Game Factory. My name is Foreman Chris.
And this is Big Cam. The phone is ringing in the other room, man. I hope you can't hear that.
Totally can hear that. There'll be background music playing when we do the audio version. It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Oh
So
yeah, probably kind of sound. The phone ringing probably kind of sounds like that anyway. So no big deal.
right, yeah.
Bear, 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 bear.
Is that a landline phone? Is that what that is?
No, it's my mom's cell phone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, which is I forgot to bring. I couldn't find my headset. Otherwise, we wouldn't be dealing with that. But we are. So
No worries, no worries. Anyway, hey, welcome to CNC Board Game Factory, the podcast live YouTube show thing where we're gonna make a game. We're totally gonna make.
we are going to make a game.
We are. So yeah. So anyway, my name is Chris from the Meeple Overboard podcast.
And this is Cam from the Board Boys podcast. And I'm visiting my folks in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I couldn't find the stuff I needed for the thing today because I just moved. And everything I have is in boxes right now.
Yeah, I lived out of boxes the last time that we moved for like probably a year and a half. I was like, if I don't need it
And like
now,
Wendy was okay with that? Or were you not married yet?
no, we were totally married, and that was both. That we were just like, if we don't need something now, we'll just throw it in the box in the other room, and then we'll fish it out when we need it.
Yeah. That would be like if you're only going to live somewhere for a short time, that'd be a good way to figure out what you can just pitch for the next move.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thankfully, we only lived there for a short time, 8.5 years and ongoing.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So
Yeah. So anyway, so today, Cam, I'm excited. You've had an idea that's been kind of brewing around. Is that right? Like,
I mean, I've just been like making jokes about this idea, but I think I'm there today.
nice, nice. And I have an idea that is more fleshed out than any of the games that we've pitched so far. But I wanted to try and be able to like pitch something that was like, we've had a lot of just like twinkle in the eye ideas, things that were just, hey, I thought of this literally one sandwich ago, and then a couple of ideas that we've been brewing for years, and then there's also one idea that I've got a lot of stuff kind of like the blueprints of it actually made, and so that's the one that I'm going to talk about today, which I'm pretty excited about. Um,
Nice. So this podcast is a podcast where we pitch each other game ideas, and eventually we're going to make one. So for those of you who are listening, this is episode 4, and so these are pitches 7 and 8 today.
yeah.
Well, pitches
Well,
9 and 10 if you count the pilot.
our pilot episode where we came up with what was your, because mine was like completely
Fire
unrealistic.
hose fairies.
Fire hose fairies, yeah. We really should do something with that one. That one was fun. um,
We'll make it. We'll make all these games.
so someone actually sent us on our Twitter account. Um, there's a oh dear, where was it? It was like out of Australia or something. There was a Kickstarter for a tabletop assemble your own miniature golf course.
Well, Chris, somebody beat you to it.
No, that's how much influence the CNC Board Game Factory has. Is that in our four
Oh,
to five episodes that we've already had up, someone listened to it and said we should do that.
yeah.
Made an
Well,
entire Kickstarter campaign and put it up.
so that's when we have to. That's not why we like everything we say. We're gonna have to be like, oh, this is my idea for a new game. TM 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 R R R R C C C C
Patent pending.
TM
Yeah.
TM TM.
So no, I mean, hey, cool. So if someone else can make it, that's one less thing that I have to do.
Yeah, there you go. We can make. I mean, we can make better games than that. I mean, not that that wouldn't have been the best game of all time because it would have, but you know what I'm saying.
For anyone watching, how's the audio, Jordan? Sometimes I've had issues in the past where the audio is echoey on my side, but I tried to mute one microphone. I had two microphones on accident going at the same like simultaneously, so hopefully there's just one now, and I'm not echoing like a weirdie, like a wizard in a cave or something.
I mean, you're always.
I'm all right, yeah. Cam, is there anything you want to discuss before we go into, um, I guess, our things that make you go, segment? I don't have too
You
much
know,
follow up.
I mean, I really, I'm really excited to hear these pitches today, and I think we're gonna spend some time on them. I guess we both have our own individual podcasts to like sort of talk about, like talk shop But is there anything that you've been really, 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 really excited about lately that you've been playing?
I just went to Target yesterday. I walked into a store for the first time in months, and I picked up Pan Am, the new Prospero Hall game,
Yeah.
about the airline industry in the 1930s through the 60s. And Jordan, who is also watching, did literally the same thing. Yesterday we said, I'm really thinking about picking up that Pan Am game, and then we both did it, and we shamed each other into it. I really like Prospero Hall. I was listening to the episode of Ludology, which is another kind of game design-ish type podcast, and they were interviewing Chris. I don't remember his name, Rhodes Renshaw, not Renshaw, but he's one of the main design guys at Prospero Hall, and they're a very fascinating design house. You know, like an individual design like a designer has lots of have their own artists on staff, have their own designers, have their own developers and everything, and just listening to him talk about how they come under this one kind of umbrella of Prospero Hall is super fascinating. So I would recommend listening to that episode of Ludology. It was like 8 episodes back or something like that. Really cool. And so hopefully the CNC Board Game Factory will become this fantastic umbrella name just like Prospero Hall that people recognize and come to love.
I like that you went on a good enough soliloquy where I could get a huge bite of a sandwich and eat it just in perfect timing to respond. Tell me what. So Rob was telling me he thinks I'd like Pan Am. It's like their most gamey game, right? So far.
I think so. I haven't tried it yet. Just we've got the box, gonna crack it open and everything. But I'm that excited about it. It it has a little bit of that feel of kind of like if you've ever played Airlines Europe,
No.
with the route connection type stuff. But also it's like a worker placement game. It is. It has this system. It has this mechanism that for like kind of a target shelf mass market game sounds really intriguing. Where all of the players are not Pan Am. They're not Pandemonium American Airlines. They are smaller companies, and Pan Am is spreading across the board and buying up your routes. And so you're just kind of getting slowly and slowly absorbed into the mega corporation that will become Pan Am from the 30s into the 60s.
Which is Pan Am was short for. I think you got it wrong. I think it's Pandemonium Amandemonium Airlines is what.
I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So I just needed a fact check. Cool. Well, you and Jordan. Jordan, what's up, dude? You're gonna have to tell me how that was, and Rob probably is gonna have that game very soon, and then I'll play it with him, and
Yeah, that'd be my
then
guess.
everybody will ask me on the podcast, and I'll be like, "It's fine."
How about
I
you?
like Prospero Hall. I do. I think the games I played of theirs have been really neat. So.
Yeah, anything that you've been jazzed about recently?
I want to play Cooper Island again. I've talked about it on the podcast, but you played that before me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the length of the game is perfect, and that it's just a very despite the fact that it's a very high weight game according to what BGG says, I think it's one that would be really nice with multiple plays because I think it's a game where you can go in with a concept of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And try different strategies every time because I think all 4 of the things link together pretty well. But trying to decide which of those boosts to your game you want first, I think is really nice. Like the point engine or the buildings that give you a passive ability or the the anytime actions or an income. So
the anytime actions are fantastic in that game. And that's not something I've really tinkered around with in terms of design. Most of mine, I think, are a little bit more straightforward kind of things. But
sure.
at some point, I'd like to design something just that crunchy. But I don't even know how to how do you prevent it from spiraling out of a muck?
I don't know. Oh, Chris, we're gonna have to. That thing you wanted me to do on this episode, we're gonna have to do it next week as well.
Oh, okay.
We'll keep it under wraps. But I did not bring that with me. But I did bring it to my new place.
I am incredibly excited about that. That'll be our things that make us go for next week. But this week,
exactly.
Look, why don't we move into that segment really quick? Things that make us go, hmm.
Things that make you go, hmm, hmm. So, are we doing the one I was thinking about worker placement today, and in preparation for this podcast, and I was thinking about like why does every worker placement game I've seen a lot of ingenuity and intelligence in the design of a lot of different worker placement games, but I found that there's really two variations on worker placement. Um, and one is like exclusive worker placement, where you have to prioritize what you want to do because you can only get your workers so many places.
Mm-hmm.
And also inclusive worker placement, where you can like place multiple workers in an area, whether like everybody can take certain areas, and a lot of these games have like exclusive and inclusive spots. And I've seen stuff where you can place like multiple workers for multiple effects.
Yeah.
But I very rarely, I don't know if I've ever seen a game that takes worker placement and adds a twang that is outside of those things that I've just said. And I'm trying to think of like what would that be, and what's the next step? What's going to be worker placement 2.0?
A few thoughts on
Not that
that.
it needs a 2.0.
So a few thoughts on that is Shem Phillips and Sam McDonald are like the man for that. The man's is whatever the plural of the man is, because Raiders of the North Sea is one of those first like really unique twists I've seen on it. You know, the place a worker, take a worker kind of a thing.
That's true.
It has that feel of blocking, but also as soon as the space is blocked, then you know that you can then pull the worker from that space to activate the action still. But it might tinker with the order that you want to do actions on that board. And then I think of Architects of the West Kingdom with that kind of increasing pool, like the more workers you have on a space, the stronger that space kind of becomes. And for some reason,
But see, that's one of the things I mentioned because that's present in several games.
okay, yeah, the every space is shared, and then more workers equals more benefit, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. And like there's a lot of games where maybe you don't leave your workers there. Like Stone Age is a big example of one where you can place multiple workers in a thing, and it's inclusive in that multiple players can go there, but it's exclusive in that there's a certain number of spots that can be filled in like those spots there.
So I have had this idea, and this is going to become a pitch in the future, and it's or the past, because it's a time travel worker placement thing, right? This will be something in the future. I want to get something a little bit more solid on it, so that's what we're not going to discuss this week. But I've thought about a I just played Egizia Shifting Sands by some of those Italian crew. Two of the lesser known ones, not Tishini Luciani. I think it's Brasini, and she's awesome. And
Ruffini and Gili tend to work together a lot.
I think it's them too. But Egizia Shifting Sands is really cool because it is worker placement. It's all along the Nile River, and once it has that Tokaido type thing, or like a rondel type thing, where the further you go down the road or the river, you can't backtrack. You have to keep going down it. So I wanted to mess with something like that with time travel, and the other element might be your workers are numbered. So you have like 1 through 5, and if you keep repeating this round, you keep doing the loop or something like that, and you can't put your number 3 worker in the same space that you in a previous time run through put your number 3 worker, lest you cross the timelines and cause issues. Something like I'm not sure if it's too highfalutin, or I don't know if it is. It is kind of that, hey, this is another fun twist you could do with worker placement or not, and it could be a nightmare to design, but I want to. I want to do it.
Time travel is a fun mechanic in Anachrony, though, where you have to you can get stuff, and then you have to send it back later.
Yeah. So there'd be something like that. Jordan in the chat says that Loop Inc. has a time travel worker placement mechanism. So that can only prove that the designers of Loop Inc. listened to CNC Board Game Factory, invented time travel, went back, and preceded my idea.
Mm-hmm.
So first mini golf, and now this. Man,
Should we go into BoardGameGeek.com and change the credits for Loop Inc. to also include your name?
I think that we should. So
Yeah.
basically,
Only,
the crux of your idea of your point, the things that make you go is that there's just not you're not seeing enough twists and variations on worker placement. You'd like to see some
it's
more
not that
stuff.
I'm not seeing enough. It's just that I don't see many, and I'm wondering what kind of uncharted territory remains that could be a really neat twist on worker placement, or if like that's just kind of the tried and true thing now, and the twists are in how you implement what's already kind of covered ground. But I don't know.
Here's a revolutionary idea. What if your workers were dice?
Yeah, I don't think a game like that has ever been made.
And I feel like I almost see more variation there. You set your own dice, or you roll them and work with what you get. Like you set your own dice, but like in Crystal Palace, however many pips you set your dice to, you have to pay money for each pip. Or what is that game? You talked about this. Like you're mining on Jupiter's moon. It's a dice.
I talked about this.
I think you talked about this. Somebody did on the Board Boys at one point. But it's like a dice placement game where you want a higher number on a space because you get more resources. Like you put a 6 somewhere, you get 6 level benefit. But if you put a 1, you go before that. So I feel like there's like a lot that you can work with in terms of dice.
No, that game was not mining on Jupiter's moon. It was like some kind of like impending apocalypse game where you're in like Antarctica, and I can't remember the name of the game. I only played it once, and I thought it was pretty neat, but that was like a year ago, so good memory. Because I forgot about that game.
Maybe we're talking about different games. I don't know. But anyway, yeah,
We could
it had like an
this
ice.
game had a mechanism where you place your dice as workers, and you still roll your dice, I think. But if you have like a 6, it goes like to the back of the line, but you would get 6 things. But if you have a 1, it goes to the front of the line, but you only get 1 thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Okay, so anyway, I'll try and find out what the name of that thing is because I can't remember.
Yeah, I can probably figure it out here today sometime too. Um, Jordan says, "Whalers on the Moon, where you carry a harpoon." That must be a Simpsons reference or something, huh?
Not that I know of. I think Jordan's actually just trying to be clever.
He wrote a little song for us.
Good old our one listener. I love him. Our one listener so much.
Everybody loves Jordan. What's up, Tree?
All right, so how do we want to do pitches today, my friend?
I think you should go first because I'm eating a sandwich and I can finish it while you give me your pitch.
Yeah, sure thing, sure thing. In fact, I'll even turn off your camera here, so that people can't see you eating your sandwich.
Dude, why would you do that? I want people to see me eat a sandwich.
All right, I'm going to share my.
Oh, because you're actually going to show me. I have it here on my phone here. I can see what you're talking about.
Oh, cool. Hey, look at that. All right. So, this is an idea that I would have done a little bit ago, but I wanted to reach out to Mr. Jamie Stegmaier of a little company that he owns called Stegmaier Games, I think it's called. And I've been tinkering around with different ideas of like making
That was a joke, right?
That was a joke, yes. Yeah. Stonemeyer
Okay.
Games. I've been tinkering around with this idea of it's kind of like a design challenge for me to kind of get me into thinking about stuff is making like roll and write versions of games that exist. So one of the first things that kind of kicks me off my interest during this whole lockdown was making a Teotihuacan dice game type thing. And I got it to a really happy point. And so I took on another challenge, one of my other favorite games, Viticulture. And I thought, how would you make that a roll and write game? So I have like a general blueprint here of what that would look like, but nothing is tested or half the things are probably wrong with it. So that's why, even though I have this fancy looking Excel sheet put together, it is not going to be good yet. So for anyone listening to the audio version of this, I will have this up on our Google Drive later. So if you if you need that link to our Google Drive, go check out the CNC Board Game Factory Facebook page or the CNC Board Game Factory Guild on Board Game Geek. So this is my idea for a roll and write version of Viticulture. So this is kind of the central board here, where there's going to be 4 dice that are used: red, white, blue, and black, or red, white, and literally any other 2 colors. But red and white should probably be those colors because guess what colored wines exist in the world? Red and white. I couldn't think of anything more clever to say than that. So basically, this is the summer and the winter half of Viticulture, kind of split into a roll and write game wherein everyone basically rolls the dice. Whatever the red value is, you put out the white value, the blue, and the black, and you place them into these boxes in the middle. You have your first half of the game, which is the summer phase. And so, if say the red is a 6 and the white's a 1 and 2 and 4 or whatever. So in turn order, you go ahead and you basically draft one of the dice. So you take red and you move it over into the whatever the red action is here, which happens to be plant a vine in your fields. Very viticulture-like. And so whatever the strength of that die roll number is, you can plant that level of vine. And the same thing with the white, if you go ahead and do that. The blue die is like your visitors, so depending if it's 1 through 6, you can activate a different version of a visitor, like a summer visitor in the summer, obviously, and a winter visitor in the second half of the round. Black allows you to build buildings. To encapsulate a little bit of that viticulture feel, my idea would be that whoever first in a round grabs a specific die also gets a benefit, kind of like, if you take that first space in viticulture, you get draw an extra card, or plant an extra thing, or get a $1 discount. So there'd be some of those, like if you plant a vine in your field, you get to immediately check off a grape. You get a grape in your grape storagery, your grapery. If you build a building, you get the $1 discount, right? And so at the end of the summer phase, once everyone has passed, you reset the dice back into the middle, so the red 6 goes back to the middle, the white 1 in the middle, 2 and 4, and then you go into the winter phase, and in turn order, you get to use those same numbered dice rolls to then take actions in winter. Once again, things like harvest a field, if you're the first person to use that die over on the other side, you kick the red over here, you get to harvest the extra field. If you make wine, or if you fulfill if you fulfill a contract first, if you use the black die, you kick it over here, you get the extra victory point. And so that's kind of my central conceit. Is it's a roll and write game where the 4 colors represent the 4 actions of summer, but then they also represent the 4 actions of winter. But it's the same numbers for both halves of the round, and so you're not re-rolling the dice constantly, but you are re-rolling them each round. And then the player board would look something like this, roughly. So get 20 points, you have your residual income, you have your grapes, and you have your wines, and everyone just fulfills contracts. You just have contracts up here at the top of your player board. This is my envisionment of kind of what the player board might look like. And so yeah, that's basically my thoughts on what a Viticulture, the dice game, like a roll and write kind of game would look like. I have a few things that are unsureties, things that seem like they should work, right? Like if this is a simplification of the game, there's no action to like draw contract cards. You just have contracts up here that you can fulfill at any time. Some of them give you that recurring income, some of them don't because they're easier, but they're all worth points, and you want to try and your fields have a max value, right? So you have to like build some of these buildings to increase how many grapes, how many vines each field can hold and stuff like that. So it has a lot of those flavors of viticulture. Flavors, that's an intentional play on words. But it has its holes where there's things like a lot of these actions rely on the number of the die, the strength of the die. So like which summer or winter visitor you want to use depends on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6. Which building you can build. There's 6 buildings, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. But then there's things like how do you tie in the value of the die on contract that you fulfill. Because the contract's like the main way of earning victory points. Therefore, would you rate these contracts like on a level 1 through 6? And if you're like near the end of the game and you want to fulfill a level 6 contract but the 2 gets rolled, it seems like that would get more in the way than actually contribute anything to the game. So I have those types of questions. Does every action need to have an associated benefit depending on that number of the die? Or is it fine if 6 of the 8 actions of the game say like, oh, is the number a 1 through 6? Ooh, that makes me change how I want to approach the actions of this round. But fulfilling a contract is just always, the black die, it's a black die. Doesn't matter if it's a 1 or a 6. Like, you just fulfill a contract. So those are some of the areas where I'm a little bit unsure, where I still have a lot that's kind of nebulous in term, for that. So that is kind of my idea there. I don't know if you've got any thoughts that come to your mind as I walk through that.
I have a couple, and I think my nephew Calvin just showed up, so he's here too. You want to say hi to Chris, Calvin?
Hi.
Hey, what's up, man?
He's reading a Tintin comic.
Oh,
Tintin's
cool.
pretty good, right?
That's good taste.
So
Hey, I need to show you one thing.
we'll tell you what. I'll read Tintin with you in just a few minutes, okay? Oh, that's a train right there. Yeah, very cool. Okay, I'll read Tintin with you in about 10 minutes, or maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. One of the things that I really like about viticulture, and it's just a really small thing, is at the beginning getting to pick your mama and your papa. But it sounded like this game would have a little more like player interaction than other roll and writes, right?
Yes, because if I take the white die first, now you can use it because there's such a thing as a grande worker, but you're not going to get that first to take it for the summer benefit type of a thing.
Sure. It might be fun if you had some sort of setup in there where you splayed out like a starting arrangement of stuff, like to give you a boost into the game. And then just like a classic roll and write, everybody could choose their arrangement. But maybe, I don't know if that would be like, I don't know if you'd put like a small deck of like cards in there that you could piece 2 cards together for a starting setup, or if that would make the game, too crackable to like start with a little bit of a boost in certain areas. But like maybe getting to start with a thing or two would make the game kind of fun, and like you choosing like what you get based on like 2 cards coming together. Everybody could pick the exact same configuration if they wanted. Might be kind of a neat thing, kind of like your prelude in Terraforming Mars, or like we just played, the Underwater Cities expansion where you get to start with like a year worth of stuff. I haven't really seen a roll and write that starts you with a boost. I see all roll and writes kind of starting at 0. Yeah. And so that might be something that would be kind of unique that would like give it kind of a cool flair. Other than that, like, nothing really jumped out at me because I'd really like to maybe try this game with you. And I think that'll bring up a lot more thoughts. I think it's really easy to ask a bunch of questions when you have a pitch that's not quite as thought out, but yours is very thought out. And like my pitches tend to be really like nebulous, whereas yours tend to be pretty, I think, confident in their place in the world, at least today.
Yeah, this one more so than the others. Like this one is actually put together. I actually put time to like put it together in Excel and everything, and so it's a little bit more concrete, I suppose. But also, there's I know that there's holes, there's cracks in the foundation that I like to fill in, and I mean, I think that you've got a good brain for this type of stuff. But I love that idea. And if you don't want to, for example, have extra cards that you might have to print out to go ahead and go along with this roll and write idea, you could roll the 4 dice at the start of the game. There could be a little chart that says, 1s, 2s, 3, 4, and whatever. Like you have a 1, 2, 2, 4. Pick a combination of these 2 things or something like that. Like
right.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Like knock the first round out of the game when the fewest stuff actually happens. Start with a little bit of stuff, and then round 1 proper is actually exciting.
Yeah. The other thing I missed and again, my nephew is showing up here just now. But do you have? I saw that you had visitors. I saw that you had contracts. I saw you had, wine aging and wine making and grapes. What I didn't notice, and maybe that's when I stepped over to the door, is did you bring the building aspect into the game?
I did. I'll go ahead and share that screen again.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I talked about that very briefly because I didn't want to get bogged down with like here's every detail, River. But yeah, so there are the six.
Oh, I can see there. Yeah, right in the middle on the left there.
Yeah, so I've got the 6 buildings in here, and so they cost 1 through 6 and everything, and so that's one of those things where the number of the die matters. If you have a 5 over there, then you can build anything up to building number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, or 5. I said 4 twice, and that was weird, but
Yeah.
so there would be something like this where you can have like that would be a viable strategy, is to build up a bunch of buildings. And then it's another debate that I have: should buildings be worth like 1 victory point each? They're not in the original game, but since this is a roll and write version, you want things to be moving briskly,
Right.
so why would you spend money and time building buildings if they're not going to give you both a lasting effect but also kind of zip the game along?
Yeah.
So things like the tasting room, every time you fill a contract, extra victory points. Something like that. The trellis and the irrigation are there so that you can sport more stuff in each field. So you can only have like 3 in each field at the beginning of the game or something like that. So I think that this would be a very interesting, like, and that also, what am I trying to say? That leads to the more diversification, because that's one of the things I like about roller right games is if there's not a mechanical way to enforce variation of player strategies, then people are going to use the same dice numbers.
Sure.
But if I have a windmill and someone else doesn't, they have a tasting room, now we are incentivized in future rounds to branch off from each other and emphasize different dice actions more than the other.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to checking this one out. This seems like a really, really neat concept.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you think so.
I'm trying to think. There was one other thing you mentioned that I wanted to ask about, and it's just completely slipped my mind. Chris, I'm sorry. I failed you.
If it comes to mind later, that's fine.
I failed you, baby. But yeah. Any final thoughts on Viticulture, the dice game, that you want to drop in before we move on to pitch 2?
All I want to say is also that I reached out to Jamie Stegmaier as like, hey, I'm doing this weird little extra show, like the sideshow thing where we're gonna make a board game or whatever, and I just asked, hey, are you fine if I use the name of Viticulture as like the theme for this, and I take some of the art and as a free, not like as a way to make money or something like that,
Right.
Because I mean that's how my little Scythe got started. Someone just kind of took some of that. That's how the Scythe Fenris a lot of that was something that like an expansion that some guy just started making, and then reached out to Stonemaier Games and was like, hey, here's this thing, if you're interested. Jamie's been very traditionally okay with people kind of home brewing and tinkering with stuff, and then some of it he's published, some of it he's actually then worked with those people and made them known designers, which is great. So I mean, that would be awesome, of course, but also he just said, yeah, that's fine. Like, don't try and make money off of it. But if you want to have people playtest it in the Viticulture Facebook group, there might be interest there. And so I just want to say that that's super cool that he has always been very okay with people tinkering with his IPs and his properties and stuff. So
he seems like a very, very, very good guy, and I've only gotten to chat with him a couple times. He was on our podcast once, but yeah, he seems like a great guy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thanks to him for totally being okay with that.
You're a cool dude, Jamie.
All right,
cool.
Cameroon, I want to hear your pitch. I'm excited about this.
Okay, so I've been joking around about this on the Board Boys podcast a bunch. I don't know if I've been joking around about it on CNC Board Game Factory, but I don't think we have that many listeners yet, so it's not even really a running gag here. but I've been talking for a really long time about trying to come out with a game, trying to design a game called, I guess it could be called Cam's Colored Cube Manufacturer, if it was a Board Boys thing. But now we've brought it to CNC Board Game Factory, so it's Cam and Chris's Colored Cube Manufacturer. Which my original idea was just to have a very, very, very dry economic Euro game that was about running a warehouse full of colored cubes and manufacturing them and trying to like turn a profit and get points. So here's my pitch for the game, with the caveat is I will get to a point where there's something I think I might think is actually a good idea to leave out of the game. But I'm going to give you the whole concept. And I think I mentioned to you what I would leave out. So now we can't play the game of like what aspect did Cam actually think he might want to leave out. But here's Cam's Colored Cube Manufacturer. So it is a factory running game where you are manufacturing colored cubes. And what you do is early in the game, and probably for a little bit of every round, you're either going to bid or draft on components for your factory. So you're gonna have like a player board, and in my original concept of this game, it's gonna be like laid out where it's like a grid, and you're gonna have a couple things in there, like maybe some cube storage and like a machine or two, right? And what you do is during the beginning, you're going to purchase by bidding components, more like cubes to start working with, like resources and and like machines for your colored cube manufactory. And if you're drafting, I think there'll be like 1 or 2 use cards, where like if you have a hand of like 9 cards, you can pull a couple and then pass, and then pull a couple and pass, where you get like a different couple colored cubes on some cards, like conveyor belts to like set up your workflow, and like machines to do things like to manipulate your cubes. And the basic concept would be is after you either bid, like I think if you bid, you're going to use multi-use cards, or like you can bid on a card that is either a particular stretch of stuff, a particular couple colored cubes, or a particular machine, right? And maybe there's just one type of machine, but like different cubes will be worth, or different cards will be worth different amounts to people because they'll have like those shapes they need or the specific colors they need. I don't think there's going to be like 20 different colors of cubes, but what you're going to do then is you're going to build out your factory, and you're going to be setting up these workflows where mostly what you're going to be doing is smashing 2 basic cubes together to make other colors of cubes. And it might not just be like red and blue make purple. It might be like you have a white cube and a green cube, and you put those together, and that makes a gray cube. I don't know. You'll have a little chart, but basically you're going to be smashing cubes together, and then you might be able to smash like completed cubes together to make more complex colors of cubes.
Okay.
And what each one of these things will do is they'll have a few different uses. So like basically created cubes can like be shipped out on their own, to like create like an income engine. So like if I ship out a few like blue cubes that I've smashed together a white cube and a black cube to make a blue cube, I can ship it out and I can increase like the amount of money I get every round. Certain cubes you can leave and like put in like storage, and like you can acquire like basically amass like a certain color of cube to buy like technology that gives you like passive buffs, like little ways to break the game. And those might be like from a market row you can acquire technology, or they might just be everybody has like a stack they can draw from, like Orleone or whatever. But basically like things that are like just give you abilities that aren't normally part of your factory. And then most of the other colors of cubes will be used to complete contracts that like basically you're trying to complete. So like this one needs like a purple cube, an orange cube, and a gray cube, and so on and so forth. And I haven't decided if you're supposed to like try to race people to cubes, but basically the workflow, if you are racing to complete contracts, would be like you can run your factory multiple times, but basically everybody gets to do like one amount of work at the same time. And so like if there's stuff you're trying to get to, you have to prioritize like the contract, because if I take my first action to like crush and ship a purple cube and I have a green and white cube sitting there, now I can complete that contract. And so you have to prioritize if you want to get your hands on like the technology. And I haven't thought super deep into what things you'd be racing for, but the one thing I have thought of is like amassing cubes to like put together in machines and like have storage for them and like build out your factory flow might just do better without like the building conveyor belts, like spatial, like having to move things into a machine together. That could get pretty hairy pretty quickly. But the concept is, yeah, you're gonna like get cubes, and then you have to figure out how to like turn them into the colors you want. And there's probably a couple other things you can do with different colors of cubes as well. In fact, maybe there's like 3 different things you can do with cubes, and every cube falls into one of those categories. So maybe there's like 3 levels of each type of cube. So like you can, like, your basic resources you could like ship off to, amass a little tech, amass a little income, or X other thing. But if you make like the next level up, you can either send it into one of the 2 piles to be worth more. But then generally the high level cubes would be really not used for upgrading your factory. They'd be used as components in like high point contracts. So there it is. There's my colored cube manufacturer. Tried to keep it succinct, but I think I was talking for about 10 minutes straight. So sorry about that.
No worries. I mean, yeah, you got to get your ideas out there. My first complaint about it would be, why wouldn't it be called Colored Cube Factory if our show is called CNC Board Game Factory?
Well, obviously it can be, and it should be. So it could be called, it could be called CNC Colored Cube Factory.
I like it.
And the CNC could stand for Colored and Cube.
Jordan Hopper, who is part of the No Cube Zone podcast, says in the chat, that sounds awesome, except that he could never play it on his No Cube Zone podcast.
One of the thoughts I had too about this game is that you could abstract it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could de-abstract it where like the resources you get are actual resources, and you're making like electronics. So like if you get like scrap and like wires, you bash them together and it turns into like computer parts. And then if you bash computer parts with plastic together, they turn into like consumer electronics. But I think in a game like this, just utilizing cubes and having them just be cubes would A, be tongue-in-cheek, and B, make the game less visually complicated.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, is that I know people joke about the lacking of dry Euro games, like the thematic disconnect and everything, but also when they go out of the way to be like, this gray cube is computer parts and this green cube is copper wiring. You're like, I'm not going to call them that. I'm never going to call green cubes copper wiring.
Yeah, you're going to call them green cubes or green dudes. I think cubes and dudes are 2 of like the most commonly used board game words.
Cubes on a map games. Yeah. No, and so I like a lot of this. I am slightly saddened by the thought that conveyor belts may not be part of it, because I love the idea of conveyor belts, but they do get unwieldy, right? If you're like, the correct conveyor belt never came out for me to bid on or whatever this round, so I can't connect these pieces or whatever. So the thought that I had was, you could still include workflow. So like if your board went from left to right or from top to bottom or whatever, and you could just build out machines in different rows or something. So let's say that goes top to bottom. You could build certain machines in different rows and just say, whether it's on the left side or the right side, it doesn't matter. Like Dwayne The Rock Johnson would say, doesn't matter.
Places to store them, and your workflow could be like you push everything through. Like you could have a thing where maybe I have like I've bought 4 cube holders and 3 cube smasher machines.
Hmm.
So like if I put 4 cubes in, then I can smash 2 cubes and 2 cubes together, and then later I can smash another one. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you have maybe the row that they go in matters. So if you have 4 cube holders up top, then you have 2 cube smashers in the second row, and then you have 1 more cube smasher some later row. You could do the 4 into 2, right? Because that uses up 2 cube
Mhm.
smashers, and then you do the 2 together into 1 super cube at the bottom because you have that third one. So it becomes: do you want, like, does the spatialness of it matter, or does it just matter how many machines you have? And you can just ignore conveyor belts totally, but still have
Okay, so
that flow.
I think that's really good, and I think that's something to come back on if we like decide to look at this deeper. But I think the one question I'd really like to answer to pick your brain about
Yeah.
is I think there'd be 3 ways to get your resources and machines, and one would be bidding.
Hmm.
The second would be drafting. The third would be just a base engine that you have, and you work from there. So like
Yeah.
you can start creating your own like basic cubes. Which of those do you think would be the most compelling?
So here's a thought. Given that were going earlier about worker placement and how there's not that many variations of worker placement, I believe it's the game Jorvik by Stefan Feld, which uses it's a bidding
That was
mechanism.
originally like a firefighter game, wasn't it?
I don't. It had a different theme,
Yeah.
and I don't remember what. But
But I've played Jorvik. I haven't played the original, but I think they're basically the exact same game.
I think so.
Hmm.
Um, in that game, you are just kind of putting out dudes, as the common term goes. You're just putting dudes out in areas to kind of bid for them, but it is almost like a worker placement because the order that they come out matters.
Yeah.
I've been toying around with this other idea where you are essentially trying to bid for things. You're trying to have the most dice in an area. Have you played Las Vegas or the Vegas dice game?
No, but I've heard you love it.
I do love it. Quick breakdown of that. You roll 8 dice. You have 3 twos.
Hey, Charlie. Sorry, dog here now too.
You're a popular
Everybody's
guy.
starting to show up for 4th of July, so
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. So, so if you roll your 8 dice, you have 1, 2, 2, 2, 4, 5, 5, 6, or whatever. So, if you want to
yeah.
put dice onto the twos, you have to put all 3 of your twos out there at once, and you're trying to get the majority in these different numbers to get cards and stuff, right? Get money. I've been tinkering with an idea of like using that, but the dice that you put out are not just for a majority to get some card to add to your tableau or to add to your engine, but also all those spaces 1 through 6 have different actions associated with them. So if you put so at the end of the round, for every die that you have on space number 2, you can earn 2 cubes, 2 resources. For every die that you have on action space number 1, you might get the majority, get that card or whatever, but you also get, um, 2 coins for each worker there. So my thought would actually be to kind of Cube Factory smash maybe these 2 ideas together, do away with this dice rolling mechanism, which I straight up lifted from Las Vegas because I love the game that much, and maybe it could be like a worker placement, or it could be a bidding type thing wherein you are putting out workers to try and get majorities to get factory parts or whatever, or resource things and stuff, right? But also maybe there could be some action. So like if you get the majority, you can add a machine into your factory. But regardless of if you have the majority or not, for every worker you have in space number 2, you can get 2 basic cubes. For every worker you have in space number 5, you can grab a conveyor belt piece, or some factory bit or whatever.
Sure, sure.
So I wonder if that would be an interesting driving mechanism as like where everyone is kind of coming together,
Yeah.
putting out.
I think that's really neat. I think that's actually really a clever idea. And yeah, that's very, very cool. I mean, everything Stefan Feld does is very, very cool in my opinion anyway, but no, that's a great answer. So yeah, it's a colored cube manufacturer. obviously not as well thought out as Viticulture the Roll and Write, but I finally dropped my first Euro concept, which we would have thought would have been game one, right?
I mean, same here, man. Like that's what the typical stuff is I like to play. But I've also been really enjoying a lot of roll and write games, small card games and stuff
Mhm.
lately. Been playing The Crew a ton. So this like it's fun
The
to
crew's
train.
cool. I played that with Rob a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's so good. And so I think that influenced Fruit Smoothie. Playing that and playing Six Nimmt.
Hmm.
And so just coming up with like lots of different game ideas. But I like this a lot. I like factory things in games. Recently, Alley Cat came out with Chocolate Factory.
I played it.
I've played it too. I really like it. I really
I thought
like
I thought it was super neat, and yeah, obviously, that I think the conveyor belt thing really works in that game, but it's the very different concept than what I was thinking of. Um, I'm trying to think like I'm trying to think of the game that would be the most like that I originally had in my head would be the most like conveyor thing, more like actually like a production factory like simulation computer game, honestly. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you played Pipeline?
Yeah, I have played Pipeline, but Pipeline's neat. But Pipeline to me is more of a puzzle and less of like a production, because like you can like link those pieces up like kind of however you want,
Yeah.
um, and you're just trying to make like a long thing of that. Like to me, that's like a spatial puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, more I was looking for more like flow efficiency, where like it's not like puzzly how to put it together. The puzzle is like how to make the colored cubes I want with the machine that I have. So,
Right.
but I think Pipeline's really, really neat. Um, but yeah, but have you played Pipeline?
I have. I played it a
Yeah.
lot. It's very good. It's very good. I'm excited about
Mhm.
the new 2-player version of it coming out.
Oh, because I played it 2-player and that it seemed like it would be better at more.
Yeah,
I've played it a couple times, but
it's good all around, I think. It has a few
yeah,
wonky rules, but I mean overall I like the idea of putting stuff together and then eventually you put the engines in there that make it run by itself, like that type of stuff.
yeah.
Um, and the last game that I'm going to ask if you've played or not is Automania, the car
No,
factory game.
I'm not, but I played Kanban,
Automania
which is
has
not.
they are a little different, yes. Because Automania has you can make 3 different types of cars and they go through a conveyor belt system. One has a very short conveyor belt, one has a medium one, and the one has a very long one. But when you put stuff out onto these different conveyor belts, like the short one runs across the long one's path. So you have to think about which upgrades, which machines you want to put in different places. It's not quite like what you're describing. What you're describing is very unique. But that's the other thing that does make me think of is having these overlapping connecting conveyor belts and stuff. Not that these games can have conveyor belts. We might not, that might not be the best way to do it. But there's very few games that pull off that factory feel very well, is what I'm trying to get
Right.
at.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to go check that game out because that sounds really cool.
It's neat.
Chris, I got to get this off my chest. I actually have an idea that I think we're looking at wrapping up kind of the pitch right now, right? Because
Yep.
I have an idea for our next episode. I'm kind of thinking we may have a good idea of what game we might like to make, and maybe if there's some people listening who have some concepts for us, in about 5 more episodes of pitches.
Okay, 5.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Why don't our next episode be a recap episode, like a special, where we both think of like our favorite idea of our own and our favorite idea of the others, talk about those and chew on them. Do my little secret thing I was going to show off.
Yes. Please.
Play Fruit Smoothie on Tabletop Sim, and maybe find a way to maybe play the Viticulture game, and do just like a 2-hour special to kind of wrap up this first 10 pitches. Do 10 more pitches. Do kind of the same thing then, and then maybe look at going into the next leg of this podcast.
Which would probably be having a more serious development cycle, like picking. Like at that point, we would have a lot of really great ideas. We could kind of narrow down better and say these ones were lofty, but worth it. These ones are lofty, but not worth.
And maybe make some
further.
prototypes of a couple of our favorite ideas.
Yeah.
because I think we could each throw out 5 more pitches, don't you?
Oh, hands down, yeah. I mean, coming
Yeah.
up with the initial ideas is like the easiest part for like sometimes.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Jordan
What do
suggests.
you think about that for episode 5?
Yeah, no, I think that sounds great. We'll do like a little special. We'll go through
Hmm.
kind of a recap and talk about our own and each other's favorites.
Hmm.
I did make that tabletop sim mod, so yes, will play that, and a surprise,
And a surprise.
and a
Yeah,
surprise
dude.
from.
So this was, I think we nailed this one in an hour today. I think I was very good. I think we're starting to get our efficiency puzzle figured out, aren't we?
I think so. I think we're in a groove, man. So I'm excited about this. Yeah, let's do that. Next week will be
Very
a
cool.
special episode.
Well, sorry to cut quickly, but I got like my entire extended family here now. Sorry to be away for a day to record. Thank you for bearing with my moving schedule. I can't wait to do this next Friday and check out Fruit Smoothie in the Cyberflesh.
In the Cyberflesh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great, man. I think that sounds awesome. I really like your idea. These last 2 ideas of yours, I'm the most jazzed about. So we'll see what happens.
Dude, where's that? And you know what, Chris? Every idea of yours I'm jazzed about. It's going to be hard for me to pick a favorite of yours. It's becoming obvious in these few episodes what a Chris idea looks like versus what a Cam idea looks like. I think I think that yours are maybe a lot more realistic, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, realistic's
But-
that's not a challenge though. Yours are a challenge. I like it. All right, man.
Yeah, you know. That's why the two of us are gonna make a good game together, Chris.
I think so.
And we're the best. And we're gonna be the new Prospero Hall. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear that, Prospero Hall? Woo woo! We're coming for you.
Yeah, CNC Board Game Factory going to make Colored Cube Factory. Watch out. So, thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. And our one live listener, you are the best. And so, actually, he asked when he can come on and pitch his idea. So,
Why don't we have you? If this is okay with you,
Mhm.
why don't we do 2 weeks from today, Jordan? Have you come on and do a pitch for our second round of pitches in the first episode there.
I think that'd be great. All right, man. I'll let you get back to your family. Have a happy 4th of July.
Well, dude, happy 4th of July to you. Say hey to Wendy and the kiddo and all the family that you see or all the family that you don't see.
All right. I'm just reminding you, promised to read some Tintin. So,
Oh, dude, Tintin is great. I love Tintin.
good.
So, yeah. Are you experienced with Tintin comics? Did you read those growing up?
Not sufficiently. No.
How old's your daughter? Is she 4 or 5?
Yeah, turning 5 shortly.
This would be a perfect age, I think, if because she likes adventure stuff,
Ooh,
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, but it's very, for the most part, very kid appropriate. I mean, it is like from a bygone era where like sometimes like somebody gets like bonked on the head with like a billy club or somebody gets shot at or
Yeah.
the Tintin's buddy, the captain, is like drunk like 35% of the time. But in terms of like the stuff that I think a lot of parents like wouldn't want their kids to see in like print media, like there's no like obscenities or like gratuitous violence or sensual themes. Very
Right.
fun like adventure comics with like little mysteries, kind of like a Tintin's a young like reporter dude, and it's kind of got like an Indiana Jones vibe, and kind of got like an Agatha Christie vibe. If you kind of smashed those two things up, pretty neat.
Nice.
Anyway, snag a couple Tintin comics and read them with the kid. And hey, man, good hanging out with you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for listening, and have a great one.
Yeah. And CNC Board Game Factory signing off. All right.